minute. There's like a little delay.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Roxanne. This is Everything About Hallmark. And look who my guest is. It is Wesley Salter. And I have to tell you, they're so excited that you're here. Someone sent me a message and said that she was making her family eat dinner later tonight so she could be on and watching with us. I was like, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's amazing. That's amazing.
All right. So Wesley, tell us about you, the human. Tell me, I know that you are not just an actor, and I don't mean it by just. There's so much more about you. I did a little research and I was very much intrigued. Tell us about your yoga and all of that.
Yeah, well, being an actor means it's a journey of having to have side gigs to support the journey of being an actor. But my journey started, I'll simplify it to, went to university to become a high school teacher. My mom was a teacher. My father was a teacher. You're a teacher, which is amazing. So it ran in the family. So I went to a couple of universities and ended up getting my education degree. And I was a high school teacher for about 5 or 6 years for my initial run of that, which was amazing. I was teaching primarily socials and PE, and then filling in different departments when teachers were away. But had a blast, but I was very young when I was teaching. I graduated university and was in the high school classroom 22 to 23. And I found myself at that point teaching about the global village in grade 11 social studies. And I had realized very quickly that I actually hadn't been to many of the places I was teaching about, right?
Right, no life experience.
Yeah, the life experience, I could delve into my educational experience, but my life experience, I was like, it was burning. Always did love traveling. So that led to 5 years of getting on the road and traveling around the world. I left Canada for 5 years, ended up in over 55 countries, I think was last count. And yeah, I pit stopped in Japan for almost 3 years and was a teacher there and traveled all through Southeast Asia. But teaching was a big part of my life. So I did that. That was one of the facets that I explored. Coming back from those 5 years of travel, I did dive back into teaching for a little bit, but it was really interesting, Roxanne. It was that time where the internet had exploded. Okay. So from going traveling to coming back, teaching a PE class was very different. I came back after 5 years and suddenly, Mr. Salter, let's go. We're in a grade 9, 10, or 11 PE class. And normally that was the class where everybody gets geeked up and let's get outside and do something. Yeah. There was some struggling to oh, come on, I don't want to do that. Okay. And I found that challenging. I mean, it was great. You had to dive into I had to express my passion and inspiration to try to get them out there. But that painted a different tone for what student life was looking like when I came back. Now, coupled with that was always, with the acting thing, my mom got me into acting at a very young age. It started in grade 6 when I played the King in Alice in Wonderland. Then it led to, in my early high school days, my mom had enrolled my brother and I into video art classes in the 80s. And there was lots of experience on summer vacations to, join these video art classes, old school VCR filming, and getting the acting bug, which was great. So that was always, my father was a musician. My mother loved to sing, not hold a note, but sing. So there was performing in the blood. But when I journeyed into high school, sports became a big focus for me. So focused more on sports, but coupled with returning from my world travels, I decided to start exploring the world of acting again, living on the West Coast. Vancouver had a really big industry. So long story short is I started getting into independent short films. I was based on Vancouver Island. Wasn't really a film and TV market there. It was all in Vancouver. Had some good friends in the city that I would go and visit and continually seeing them in plays and seeing stuff they were doing on TV. So that just kept burning bright. So I was looking at this change in studentship and student mentality as a high school teacher, and then feeling that passion that I'd had since I was in grade 6 as the King in the play. I decided to finish out a school year, and I retired from teaching at at that age, and I decided to move over to Vancouver, became a waiter, and got an agent. And that brought us back into that world. So that was kind of fun. So, we started the game of auditioning just like everybody else in the city, which was great, being seen by a lot of casting directors. But even then, you're being seen a lot, going out for commercials, going out for episodic television and movies. There were still lots of gaps where you get work, that's great, and then you might not have work for 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 months.
Oh, wow.
How do you pay the bills? I didn't want to just be working in a restaurant. So I had the opportunity to do a couple things. I had a friend working at the Sundance Film Festival. He hooked me up, so I started working the festival circuit, and I did about 9 seasons at the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, wow. 9?
Yeah, 9 in total, which was amazing. And that I was given a side gig from a publicist that had liked the way I worked at Sundance. So I became an international film publicist and started flying to Berlin and the Toronto Film Festival for about 3 or 4 years doing that, which was good. And then coming back, my agent would say like, hey, great. Are we Sundance guy? Are we film festival guy? Are you publicist guy? You're not here for auditions when you're away.
Oh.
So I was like, I'm here, of course. This is what it's all about. But it's been great diving into that world. And yoga had always been a big, large part of my life. I was racing triathlons and mountain bikes post-university and had a couple of injuries and was suggested that I explore power yoga. Being a former breakdancer from the early 80s, I love the idea of movement and therapy combined.
Right.
So very quickly, Vancouver became a hotspot for yoga. So I checked into seeing what it would entail to get my yoga teaching certificate, which I did. And there was a whole bunch of different modules and styles of yoga, and also coupled with qigong.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, qigong.
Look that up.
yeah, exactly. Well, qigong, Taoist yoga, taken from China, very old module. But for the people out there, if you've ever seen Tai Chi, that's a form of qigong.
Yeah,
it's just a gentler form of movement. It's a little more accessible for everybody. That's a huge part of my life. I teach 3 classes a week on Zoom, and have been even while I'm shooting gigs. When I'm on set, I shoot from my hotel room. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell right now. It's auditioning. When you book a gig, you're working and then juggling the yoga and qigong together, and life with my family on top of it.
I know. And you're like a busy man, because I'm the type, I like to do research and I love to learn about people. So I was researching all kinds of stuff and I'm like, what? Like, I don't know how you keep it straight. I even think I said this early on in the chat. How do you know who you are? Because you got all these different cool characters. Now, I have to tell you something that, just in my opinion, when I found out that you know, the whole yoga background that you had, I was like, you know what? I feel like you channeled that to be Mandrake. And I like, just if you wanted to get into him, because I felt like he was that whole very calm, peaceful guy. And you said a whole bunch of stuff in 3 sentences or 2. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I could see that. Now, I don't know if that's true, but in my head, I'm like, oh, I could see where he was going with that. That's just me. I like to analyze every little thing that we can come upon. Now, before I ask you anything about your characters, how about like where you lived? I'm interested in what's it like. It said St. Catharines, like you just already earlier in the studio were telling me a little bit. I know nothing about that area. Can you just tell? This is for me. I don't know what my guests want. This is me.
Yeah, no, St. Catharines, interesting place. It's about a 15-minute drive outside of Niagara Falls as you move towards Hamilton and Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, it's originally a blue-collar town. It was a GM factory town.
Okay.
But played a large part in the history of Upper and Lower Canada as North America was being settled. So there's a really beautiful historical component to St. Catharines. It's part of the Niagara fruit belt. So it's a big winemaking, fruit producing area. So for anybody that's ever journeying to Niagara Falls, you have to make the route through up to Toronto, but you'll go through St. Catharines, and it's a town of about, I haven't checked what the population, so 130,000-ish. Okay. Big university town that has just evolved and grown. So now it's on the tourist the tourist track. So there's a lot of people traveling to taste great wines, see these beautiful old buildings, and explore. So yeah, it was me growing up, it was a small town-ish. As you and I talked about, a big Italian population.
Yeah.
And just a really unique, fun place, but definitely small town feel,
Yeah, I love that.
And I loved growing up. I was looking forward to hitting the road as I got into my late teens. So I kind of, once I graduated high school, I took off and never really went back. But my family's all still there. My brother's there, my mother's there, my father's there. So I'm still plugged in, and it's nice to return, but I found life out on the West Coast as a landing spot. But yeah, Niagara region, it's beautiful, and it's got hints probably of what you experience in New Jersey. There's a bit of that feel and a little bit of that accent, and it's a cool spot.
I think when my family and I were like, oh, we want to go and start to venture up in that area. So I'm going to add that to my list. And
please do.
I entice them to go and try it out because it sounds really interesting. So now talking about that whole channeling, that calm inner peace, is that what you did to be Mandrake or no? Tell us about him.
Yeah, let's talk about Mandrake. Mandrake was funny. Mandrake came up. I work as an acting coach as well. So I work with a lot of actors who I help coach them with their auditions. It was a really busy day. I had a full schedule and I got a phone call from my agent and it said urgent. I couldn't answer the phone call because I was in a coaching session. So he sent me a text. He's like, please read. They were searching for Mandrake over on Vancouver Island. So he said, hey, I've got an audition for you. It's due tomorrow morning. And there was no way I could fit it in for tomorrow morning because I booked my schedule up. So I just took a look at it, and it said Mandrake the chauffeur. They had talked about potentially 2 episodes. And said that it would be SOC, so silent on camera to start with a little bit of dialogue to come.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool. Let's take a look at the audition sides. So I quickly opened the attachment, and there was a 2-page scene that had a really big, long monologue about Evan's character asking me to explain the origin of Cobb salad. So I looked at this and I was like, okay, he's not speaking in the first episode and he's got a little bit, but there's a big chunk on Cobb salad and the history of it. So anyway, I got back to my agent. Long story short, I said, I need to do this today. Give me a couple hours.
Right.
So I shuffled some coachings. I learned the dialogue fairly quickly. I got a reader to work with me who's a good friend of mine. And we brought it together. But when I looked at it, the breakdown was pretty simple. A chauffeur to a billionaire. So it was left to interpretation.
Oh, okay.
Right, which was nice. So when I read it, Roxanne, I got a sense that Mandrake was highly trained and loyal to who he's taking care of.
Yes.
So to answer your question about the yoga, part of my training, and I'd look at Mandrake being, in my mind as I was creating a backstory, I had everything from he was former Secret Service or military.
Right.
In order to have that, we have to have really strong breathing techniques to stay out of fight or flight mode so that I can take care of Evan if need be.
Right.
So there was that was a nice harmony between what you asked me. But yeah, there was very little to it other than I made him very stiff, as you've seen in the series, very loyal and willing to do anything and everything to take care of Evan. Yeah.
like, of course, I always think of the Karate Kid. That's what I was like. It's like the Karate Kid and you're Mr. Miyagi or something, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing too is the character of Evan. No one has said this, but to me, I feel like he is like sort of on the spectrum, maybe because he just says whatever he feels and it's innocent. He doesn't mean to be mean. And you're like his voice of reasoning and he listens to you, which I love. So I had this cool question, and I'm not asking you to give any hints or any information, but what do you think? Do you think Evan is like what's the good part of him, matching up with Abby, and then what would be the negative? What do you think, since you know the character?
Yeah, I think the attractive part of the Evan character is his spontaneity, his living in the moment, and his willingness to do anything.
Yes, and Abby needs that.
Abby needs that. Abby needs that. Abby comes from, Treat Williams as dad, the structured Irish family, so Evan brings this, I don't want to say breath of fresh air, but this freshness into the world of the O'Briens, right? And he's got a childlike enthusiasm, which is just infectious. It's infectious. Now, my job as Mandrake is to reel that in when I need to. But I think that would be very attractive to Abby. And I think that's why there is intrigue, where it's just like, this guy's odd, but cute and fun and might be life on the edge a little bit, So I think that's attractive. What maybe doesn't work is all of those things that we're just referring to. Can Abby step into that world and handle it?
That's true. And be a mom, even though he is attentive and pays attention to her children. Remember that, the one had dairy. That I love all that writing. So that was cute, but this is good. And now I laugh because I think of the line where you heard how you said it, but you more or less told them you need to have some driving lessons before you try to pick her up in the car.
Yes, sir. When was the actual last time you had driven? And he's like, you think so? And I kind of nod, and I just want to gingerly walk on the eggshell and say, yes, we're going on a driving lesson before you go and pick up Abby. No, it's the relationship, and this turned out, as I said, it started with a suggestion of potentially 2 episodes. Meeting Fief and Mark, who helmed this beautiful ship, and seeing, they were getting excited, and maybe they could see, with Robert and I, as we were prepping the scenes and doing those first initial episodes, it obviously started to grow. And one day Mark kind of whispered in my ear and he said, Wes, just want to let you know there's some good stuff coming for Mandrake. We are going to peel the onion of Mandrake slowly.
Yes, it's a mystery. I agree. And I can feel that. And I'm like, oh, I love this because I can see that there's going to be more and more. And it's funny because years ago, like I had a theater for the children in the town and whatnot. And I used to say to the children, like, you don't have to be the major star to stand out. There was always this one individual that would bring something to their character, even though they didn't have as many speaking lines or as much time on the stage. And everybody remembered that. And you do that, not that I'm insulting you, like you're not the star, but you do that to these characters. I'm like, I don't know how you keep it straight. Like, see, to me, I love that. I think that's an actor. So I couldn't wait to hear and pick your brain about it.
Yeah, it's been the biggest gift, the way it has grown, feeling the support from Fief and Mark as they're writing and creating the character, and then cultivating a relationship not only between myself and Evan, but then, I have a couple of great scenes with Megan, playing Abby. To come into the world of the O'Briens is such a gift, and we have a lot of fun, but just seeing it open up, you probably remember the episode when Treat goes back to see the airplane after the airplane crash. I mean, okay, first of all, not like touch myself. I was in a scene with Treat Williams, which was amazing. Robert and Treat were just dialed in. I was, standing off, but they ended up cutting out the tail end of that where Treat had an idea where he reaches for the car, and the footage is somewhere, but because it's a Tesla and he's so old school, he has no idea how to open the handle. He reaches and I have to step in, and I'm sort of, Mr. O'Brien, and he's like, looks at me. What? And I open the door for him. He's like, yeah. But we fell on the floor. Like, it was just buckets of laughter. So there is so much potential depending, if the show gets picked up and where they want to take it. There's just so much potential for the expansion of relationship.
Good. I love it. And we can tell. So I am, I want to hear that there's the next season. I'm waiting to hear all of that. I know, right? We're all waiting. We need it. We're going to get
the Chesapeake thing, I looked somewhere online because I was like, what's going on? Like, why didn't they just announce it at the end? Like, come on, let's get this going. But I read somewhere in a summary of what happened last season that they announced it in February following that season. Is that, you would know maybe? I don't know. So maybe it's coming, but like you, I'm like the fans. I'm like, come on, what's going on?
want to hear more. Now let's segue into another, you know what, before we do that though, I had another question that I love the whole line about Mandrake the magician between Abby and Evan. Did you realize that like before when you got the name, like did your brain automatically go there or no? Like,
great question. I mean, obviously when you see the Mandrake, there's the reference either to Harry Potter, but that would be like new school. And then there was Mandrake the magician. And the second I met Mark and Fief, Roxanne, so picture my first day on set, I walk on set and it was early days for Robert as well. And he was coming in to take over the #1 of the show. It was crazy. So I was just sort of standing off to the side. I didn't have any dialogue. I was just a physical presence there. I had met Robert in the hair and trailer makeup room. But when we walked on set, I was just there. And then suddenly, 2 gentlemen walked up to me and they said, "Hi, Wesley, thanks for being here." And it was Fief and Mark. And, Fief's like, "I'm the showrunner." Mark's, "I'm executive producer, head writer." And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you so much for having me." And right away, they were both wearing some form of comic book shirt. So it was, it was crystal clear that it was Mandrake. And it was just, I was like, "Mandrake the magician." And they looked over, they before we started filming, I wasn't wearing my glasses in my audition. So I was wearing my glasses on set waiting, and they whispered and they said, "Wesley, are those glasses yours?" And I said, "Yeah, they are." And they look at each other and they're like, "Would you be comfortable wearing them?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I can see." And they're like, "That's Mandrake. That's Mandrake." So it was such a nice moment. But ultimately, they gave me the insight was that it came from Mandrake the magician. Mark, I believe Mark came up with the name, and it was so exciting.
I love it. I love it because when I heard it, I was like, I wonder if that's where it is. And then there's a line between Abby and Evan about it too, and I was like, oh, they threw that in. I wonder who caught that. So that was cool.
So good.
I know. Now the next interesting character that you have is, I don't know, a bit of a baddie on When Calls the Heart. How is it? So my question is, when you heard about that role, did you realize like it would be you would be like a simple little part and then it would be rolling into another season or no, or whatever you can tell us?
What I can tell you, here's a true story. This was almost the role that never was for me. In between auditions, there can be time where you have a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe nothing happens, right? So I normally, in between auditions, I let my facial hair grow. I'm going white, so I have a white beardish. So it was a stretch of about 10 days. And I had an upcoming surf trip with my family that I was going on. So we took off to the really small town in the upper west coast of Vancouver Island, was there. And I got, again, an email from my agent. It was a Friday. And he said, "Hey, Wes, I have an audition due Monday." And I was like, "Okay, crap. I'm on vacation. I'm upset." He's like, "Great. Check out the breakdown," which is the character breakdown of what they're looking for. It's for When Calls the Heart, potential reoccurring role. And I was like, "Okay, great." So I opened it up, and at that point, it didn't have a name. It said businessman. And the breakdown was roughly something in the world of, it was almost rehashing the scene of when I first go to the barbershop with Kayla's character. It said businessman, well-dressed, looking to get a haircut because he likes to look good for his clientele. And then it did make some reference that he was fronting someone or something with bigger plans.
Yes.
So that was the breakdown, as we've seen from season 8. So great. I emailed my agent, said, "I can't do this audition. I'm up on the West Coast. I've got a beard. I've only got 2 hoodies and T-shirts. This is a period piece. It says well-groomed." And it was due Monday morning. So I said, "Hey, I'm back Monday afternoon. I can get this to casting by 6 p.m. because I know the casting team. I want to represent and I want to be in that world with like the hair and the wardrobe." He calls back and says, "Here's a message from casting. Tell him to improvise and we need the tape by Monday morning." So I was like, okay, crap. So Roxanne, the kicker for me was about 2 weeks prior, I'd done a period piece audition in a 3-piece suit, clean cut and shaven. So I still had that on my phone. So I took the slate, which is you just say your name and height. I put that first so they could see me as a period piece character. And then Surfer Guy shows up to do the scene at the and I had a button up there and I pulled my hair and I had some glasses. But yeah, I definitely, and then I just thought it went away. And then sure enough, I got back and 3 or 4 days later, my agent phoned and said, "We're in the mix." But to answer your question, it was guaranteed 2 episodes in season 8.
Okay. Well, you know what? Because they never know if they're going to go to season 9, even though they know in the back of their head. So I get that. I get why they word it that way. Well, it's hilarious because there are people out there. They say that he's the character that you love to hate, and they have all these theories about what's going to happen with you and what's going to go down, and it's hilarious because they analyze. Even I have analyzed about it in my prediction videos. So it's interesting because you seem like a little, I don't know, jerkish and when you're on, but then you don't, because like when they lock you up and they put you in jail, you explain, like Jesse made it sound like you ran off with his money, right? But then you explain like why you're there and he gets his money back. And it's funny because Chris, in an interview, Chris McNally, who is Lucas, he's like, that makes me mad. He actually was getting mad at Jesse because you were investing for him. He's like, that was dumb, so he wanted Jesse to keep them, let you have the money and then expand on it. But anyway, so your character has mystery to it in that season also. I know we can't talk much more about it, but I am excited to see where it goes. And I saw from you, I think it was your fancy shoes one time. And then I saw the gorgeous tie. You weren't always in the black. You had this gorgeous like paisley tie, like you zeroed in on. So you are quite the dresser. So we're thinking you have some cash flow going on, These are all just things that we all think. But how about this? This is cool. I know they don't do a table read. Now, do they do a table read in Chesapeake Shores? Do you
No,
see no, they don't either. No. So you're really like kind of left in the dark about everybody else. It's just happening. Kevin McGarry talked about that once before. He was saying that in all the shows he's been in, they always did table reads, but When Calls doesn't. So how are you with your lines? Are you getting them like how far in advance? Like how far do you really know what's happening?
Yeah, with When Calls the Heart, I mean, we get the scripts before we're on set, so we get the lines in advance, and it does, eventually for actors that are auditioning fairly regularly, you have to work that memory muscle, and you have to get pretty good at it quickly, so. The lines, you don't freak out. When you get big chunks, sometimes you're like, holy moly, and like, I jumble words quite often, so I tend to go out for a lot of sort of techie, nerdy guys or guys that get like Mandrake or even Wyman get interesting ways they speak. Sometimes that can add a level of stress, but for the most part, what's beautiful about When Calls the Heart and for Chesapeake Shores, when we get on set and we're with the director, we walk through it first and we block it out and we run the scenes in entirety. And everybody on the team on both shows, they leave it open for the actor to offer their interpretation, and then they give their tidbits of their valuable tidbits on, well, I want to do it this way or see it happening this way, which is nice. So we don't do the table reads. Wardrobe wise, working with Barbara on When Calls the Heart, she is amazing. You see the show. It's just
had her on.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Good.
Yeah, so amazing.
She's wonderful. And when I went for my wardrobe fittings, it was written in that breakdown that he was well dressed. So when they call and ask you your sizes, they Barbara asked, where do you like to shop, just to get a sense of what my fashion might be. As you can see, it's Christmas sweaters. But so and then when I got there, she had some magnificent options and would ask me as I was putting it on, is this you, and is this what you would wear? Does this feel right? Because he definitely wants to go toe to toe with someone like Lucas's wardrobe. It's like, come on, I want to come into town and just be like, take a look at that guy. There's something about him, which is interesting. So it's we did have a play in it, and every time I'd go, and if you were shooting, they block shoot and shoot different sort of episodes at times, and you're moving, one episode, you might shoot the next scene of a different episode. So it was always fun to walk back in the trailer and see what the wardrobe was. What did the director approve ultimately? Which is fun. So Wyman, I love playing the character, and I appreciate that you can see the yin and yang of, is he a jerk or is he just a smart, nice guy that's confident?
Yes. Well, no, for real. We think that all the time. There's this team of women. They have something called Luca Beth Lounge, and they just, and you know who I mean. And Jillian is like always for you. She's like, I you know, she loves your character a lot. So we're watching. We're waiting to see what happens. We actually cannot wait, because in our minds, you know, believe it or not, even though you're a new character, you're like big in this next season. So we're excited to see where it goes. Now, I saw you driving in the scenes, you know, the old-fashioned cars, and Nate said, you know, he would have to give lessons, and a few lessons again and again. How was that, like learning to drive those cars?
You know, it was a ton of fun. Obviously, you know, I'm not a car geek, but you take a look at it. You take a look at a 1920-ish Model T Ford. It was awesome. Now Nate is so down to earth, and he speaks the language you need to hear.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he you know, it's flipped pedals. There's throttles. Everything's kind of backwards. So once you get the hang of it, and we get to rip around and practice while we're doing it, it's amazing. It's challenging. And I'll tell you this, Roxanne, it's terrifying when there's movement with a vehicle in the scene that's being filmed. Right. And then dialogue. So I can tell there was one funny story. I got to make sure here. There was one funny story where it's from season 8. I was working with Peter DeLuise. It's amazing. Yeah, it was from season 8. So I could say this. Do you remember when I came out of the judge's office? I turned around and Spurlock's waiting for me.
Yes. Yep. And you have words out there. Yes.
So it was actually scripted that after he gives me the words, I get back in the car, and one of the takes, Peter asked me to drive away.
Right.
Okay. So I jump in the Model T, and you actually, like, you're supposed to get in the other door, the passenger side door, but where the camera was set up, it was the driver's side door. So do it again. Let's do it. I hopped in, got in the car. I have size 9 feet, which isn't that big, but the pedals in the area for the feet is really tiny. So I put my foot down, and my shoe got stuck while we're rolling. So I was like, play it cool, Wes. I reached down, I turned the key, holding the wheel. Drive! Wesley, drive!
You sound like
drive. Yeah, my foot stuck, Peter. Cut!
I know. Oh, goodness. Oh.
So ultimately, we didn't end up driving in the scene. We cut before that, but yeah, driving the cars is a ton of fun.
Will that be like on a blooper reel somewhere?
I don't know. It was funny, and you know, when you're on set, and you know, time's an issue, and you're just like, come on, I want to get this right, like for Peter, because he's so passionate about it, and let's get this. And my foot was just stuck between a brake and gas pedal and the throttle, and I couldn't move my shoe, and I'm trying to lift it up, and you're trying to stay in camera because maybe you can give them something they can cut around. And it went south.
It just didn't go. But you know what? If it was on the blooper reel, they should do blooper reels, because we would, and then Edify should sell it, because we would all buy it, because we love everything that has to do with When Calls the Heart. Like, we're so passionate about it, all the little tidbits. Now I see you with a gun. Like I've seen it. Like, so and then I saw some other pieces that you're on. I'm actually going to share some pictures if I don't throw myself out. Sometimes I throw myself out when I share pictures.
Okay.
I'll get right back in the studio if I do. I do it more when I'm teaching with my students, and they love it, because when I leave, they like to carry on. I get back in, and I'm like, I'm here. I see you. But anyway, like the gun prop. I remember Andrew Walker saying that he refuses to, or not that he refuses, he has it written somewhere that he will not use an open barrel prop gun. I was wondering what it's like, the guns that you're using.
Yeah, so the gun photos, are you sharing them? Can they see them?
The one I have has a knife.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's another one. So the guns that you're referring to, for everybody that's out there in listening land, it's from a project that is getting ready to air. Yeah, it's called the Shadow of the Rougarou. Yeah. So with that gun, there's no bullets. There's no open chambers. It's all prop. Yeah. So the one under, maybe you don't have it.
No, that's one's the knife. But keep going. Go ahead. Keep sharing.
Yeah. So with season 8, Wyman doesn't have any guns. So on When Calls the Heart, I'm assuming it's probably, pardon me, the same thing. Because I know obviously Kevin works with weapons quite often, and Jack Wagner's character, being the judge, they've got guns. But yeah, I mean, on every set that I've been on, Roxanne, I've worked on multiple shows with weapons, and never has there been a blank or a bullet in the gun. It's all done in post. Yeah. So, especially in light of the current political climate based on what's happened in New Mexico with Alec Baldwin's project, it's just, I think play it safe, because all of, and people that are into that stuff, the special effects are pretty amazing, and it can be done in post, the sounds anyway.
Yes. True. Now, Mike, I didn't realize this. I thought that I saw Wyman with a gun. I really did. I thought I saw him with a gun, but you would know best because you are him and you're he.
Yeah. Season 8. It's just my top hat and my briefcase.
Okay. All right. Now look at this picture here. What is that? There's that beard you were talking about. What is that project?
So this was interesting. I booked this project while we were towards the tail end of Chesapeake Shores. Now, with Mandrake, I'm clean shaven.
Yeah.
When I originally auditioned for this, there was discussion that, so I'm playing a wolf hunter in the mid to late 1800s. It's called The Shadow of the Rougarou. It's been picked up and is going to be airing on APTN network, the Aboriginal People's Television Network. And it's based on a true mystical story about this spirit. Okay, so I'm just playing a wolf hunter. So it's very much in the world of Revenant. If you remember Leonardo DiCaprio's movie, it's that time. So I'm a wolf hunter, and I'm the leader of the pack. Very much not a nice guy. Yeah, we just finished. So that's what we've been working. We just finished final sound, and the project's in the can, and I believe it airs in February. And it's a short miniseries. It's 6 10-minute episodes, and then I think they're going, if they like it, they'll pick it up and it'll become something more.
Oh, it's 6 10-minute episodes.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6. Yes, yeah, they're little short pops. So how they're going to operate that on their platform is going to be interesting. It was based on that sort of the format of mini web series, if you remember.
Okay.
How a lot of people were doing that, these short vignettes. So yeah, it's really cool. But I know there's other bigger names that are very interested in the project. Bigger names meaning bigger networks and streaming services. So I'm really, we just finished doing the sound, and from what I saw, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Well, congratulations on that. I want to see if I can get my my thing to move to the next picture. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so there's the gun that I was referring to. So yeah, in this scene, there's so much gun shooting in this stuff, and it was all blanks. But you can see there, yeah, period piece, which I love doing. But it was great. So I got hired at the tail end of Chesapeake, and I had 3 weeks to grow that beard, because the director's calling me. He's like, "Hey, are you like Hallmark clean cut guy? Because you're the leader of a wolf pack, And I was like, "Give me 3 weeks. Yeah, I can get something for you," which was good. So yeah, it's a fun project. Yeah, that was one of the Instagram posts. Yeah, which is great.
Love it. Okay, well that's interesting. I'm hoping that it does get picked up and it becomes something like, you have such interesting characters that
yes.
Now I'm going to stop sharing with that, so it'll be us. There we are together. Now, so you have present day roles, you have roles in the past. Like, do you have a favorite, or you love it all?
The beauty, I get a lot of questions from Chessies and Hallmarkies, or Chessies and Hearties, that are like, which do you like better? You know what? There's not one that I like better, because one is a period piece and one is present day.
Right.
So I really love the period piece, especially, with Wyman and with When Calls the Heart, attention to moving through history.
Yes.
Wyman's participation in potentially this idea of industrialization rolling into Hope Valley.
Yes.
Now, as a former high school teacher teaching socials and history, I love that stuff. It's
Me too.
to see how they're honoring it. So I love that, but I also adore the Chesapeake, the modern day Tesla versus a Model T 1920s vehicle. Like, I'm getting to do both, and it was almost at the same time, which was really nice. And I got to play a character in the Bletchley Circle, the San Francisco series, 1950s, that was also based on true history. And that was authentic to period. So I love doing both, and that's the beauty of acting, is we get to play make-believe in these, we get to teleport through different universes, which is amazing. So I love them all.
Good. It's a good answer. Good answer, Wes. Now, do you have anything, like any projects that you want to share with us, or you're busy enough? Like, is there anything?
Yeah, the Shadow of the Rougarou is the latest. So, When Calls the Heart is now finished, and they're in post, which is great. Chesapeake, we're eagerly awaiting and crossing our fingers that it gets picked up, because with this new storyline, new character of Robert Buckley coming in as the new #1, and the Evan story with Mandrake off to his side, there's so much potential there, and it's such a joy to play. So now it's just back to auditioning. I'm not going to say the name of the project. I had a big audition this morning for a 1950s period piece based on a musical that we all know and love. But
oh, really?
Yeah, they're making a TV series about it, and I think people will be excited, but I'll just keep that. It's public knowledge, but I don't like to sabotage auditions that are just done.
But yeah, and you'll let us know.
Yeah, you get back in the, you're back on the auditioning train, and you just wait to hear from your agent and all the stuff that you're doing on the side, so it's been a nice break, because it was a very, from March until November was bonkers.
That's what I was like. I was looking at the different things that you would share, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're here, you're there. Where are you? When you're filming for When Calls, do you stay locally on, like, nearby, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's based out of, everybody's set up in Vancouver. So I'm in Van, and we shoot out in Langley, which is great. Chesapeake Shores is on Vancouver Island, up in a place called Manus Bay, which is paradise, but they have the whole team set up there.
Yes.
Which is great. But, I get excited. And as you've seen with my Instagram and with my Twitter, I mean, we do this for the fans, all joking aside. So
I know. Yes.
Yeah, I get really excited about involving the fans, because me, as a fan of television movies, I want to see that. I want to see what, try to piece together the stories and see what the actors are doing, and guessing where they are, and seeing their wardrobe. And, so it's a fine line of don't give away the storyline or the plot, but, involve the fans, because they're while we're there.
That when they heard that you were going to be on, that is what most of the people were saying. Oh my God, he's so good to us. He responds to us. They love that.
So that's so nice. Yeah. Well, and to everybody that's out there, and I mean, thanks for watching. And
sure.
Roxanne, when that first episode aired, when I was in Kayla's barber chair, and she put it was there, and I kind of wasn't so nice with what I was saying. Being new to the world of Hearties, I was like, wow, this is a passionate clan. And suddenly I saw some Hearties like, I hope she snips his ear. I hope she clips his neck. And I was like, my wife looked at me and said, what have you gotten into here? So I was like, hey guys, okay, first of all, this is a television show. And second of all, I'm a nice guy, but I'm having fun playing Wyman.
I know. That's okay. That's why what is that? That winds up being 5 out of
100%. No, everybody's been, they've been fantastic. But when they started seeing the behind the scenes stuff, and, just taking a moment to like a comment, I could see how far that would go in regards to people just like appreciating it. And so I've had a lot of fun with that, and I will continue to do that throughout my entire career. That's a promise.
Good. That's a good thing. Now, I love, speaking of what you share really gorgeous, just like little clips, even pictures. Like you have like someone even in the chat here, and we'll go through that in a few minutes. They mentioned that. They said that you have beautiful photography, especially when it has to do with nature. So is that like a passion of yours, just a hobby, or?
Yeah, I've always very much been into photography, and I love the fact that each of us have been given a gold mine with a cell phone. I mean, the cameras these days have replaced the big camera stuff. So I've always kind of nerded out at trying to like, what can I do with my iPhone, and what kind of things can I capture? I spend a lot of time outside, as you can see from my Instagram. That's coupled with my world of qigong and yoga, and my wife and daughter. We just love being out and with the trees. So play with that. But yeah, it's a passion project. I just love doing it and giving a glimpse into the world, which I think is fun.
which makes me say, where is that? I want to look that up. I want to go visit. I want to see, because it's gorgeous. So
no, thank you.
I love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for this whole thing. Is it okay if we look and see what's
Please, yeah. Are there people out there? I can't. Yeah.
Oh, they're out there. I don't know what kind of device you're on, but if you can actually see the chat if you wanted to, but you have to look off to your side, I think. And
yeah, I got it here.
Yeah, not private chat, just the chat in general. So private chat would just be us. So I'm going to just see if I can see who says. These are comments where people are saying they love your photography. We appreciate your engagement with us on Twitter. I'll show you that one right now. Rose is saying we appreciate your engagement with us on Twitter, which is so nice.
Oh, thank you, Rose.
And here's another one. Love how you respond to the Hearties and to the Chessies.
Thanks, Pamela. That's awesome.
Here's another one for you. So they're showing the love to you. I love how nice he is to his fans, and he always responds to Chris McNally's fan group and my private IG. He's awesome. So
Christina, yeah, Chris. I mean, first of all, fan group for Chris. Chris is an amazing human being. We've become great friends. He's inspired my new, very expensive love of LPs, records. Yeah,
I know it. Music.
Oh man, yeah, music. Like I can tell you, he is so deep in the world of vinyl, and we spent lots of time talking about it. And then, in season 8, we talked about it, and I was like, I think I'm going to go down this road. And yes, he's great. So, and the fans love him. He's great. Mr. Fancy Pants, I call him.
Listen, Mr. Fancy Pants, I don't think he realizes how much how many people are out there that love him. I think he's oblivious to it because no offense to you, but he is the #1 request. When is Chris coming on? When is Chris coming on? I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know.
I'll give him a nudge and I'll tell him that you're good people, Roxanne.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to. This was someone's comment saying, yes, that is a good thing about the guns. This movie looks interesting, and I don't know if I would have recognized Wesley. From the pictures that I was sharing.
Nice, thanks, Margie.
And that is a compliment to you because, like, you don't want to be typecast. You know what I mean? It's like they love you because you can play all these parts. This is like
it's been up until Wyman. Well, that's not true, but Wyman was one of the first characters that I could sink my teeth into that wasn't the nice guy. Like I said, I used to go for like computer techie nerdy guys. Casting saw me that way in Vancouver, so I did a show called Supernatural, and I played a bad character there, but that was sort of sci-fi-ish. But it's nice to get into that world, the juxtaposition of Wyman versus Mandrake. But they looked very similar with the styling of the show. So when something like a Wolf Hunter in the mid 1800s pops up, it's like I can't wait to jump into that. So yeah, thanks. It's fun to shake things up look-wise because you want to be a surprise.
Yes, and you know what? That is true because when I'm thinking about Mandrake and Wyman, I know they're totally different time frames, but there is actually that's kind of good for you because then you don't have to grow a beard shape like
yeah, definitely.
This is cute. I love Janine Marie. Janine Marie was a guest. She writes fan fiction and all these beautiful she'll do like these beautiful edits and has wonderful things that she puts out there. And I love this because she's showing you, note to self, take shoes off before driving the Model Ts.
I got it up here. I'll do that next time.
Oh my goodness. Could you even do that? Do you think you could drive that car without shoes on?
You probably, yes, you could, but the problem with the shot that we had, it was so wide that you got me from head to toe coming out and stepping in. So yeah.
And what did you know? You probably had no idea that was even going to happen. But
no, everybody knew. Like it had nothing to do with me in particular. It was just like it was just that pressure situation, and I'm like, I want to drive so badly, but I can't get it.
I know, and you get panicky, right? Like because you want to do the right thing. There was a cute story that Nate shared with us, sort of similar to that, where Chris is really tall. And they said his knee kept hitting what would be the horn, so we had to disengage it. So I don't know. People must have been like smaller and shorter or tinier back then or something, right?
Tiny. Well, go
ahead.
I'm just thinking in season 8. Do you see it? If you ever get a chance, be careful. No, but it's been out there. Imagine Spurlock in that vehicle.
Yes. Oh, I know he was. We saw him driving around, and it's funny because I was thinking that the other day because he's that bodybuilder guy. And I was like, you know what? How in the world did he's tall too. How do you fit in there?
Paul is a monster, and he just won some world championship stuff with weightlifting. So it's funny sitting, in the car with him. It's hilarious.
Lillian is on, and Lillian says she's eagerly awaiting to see what Wyman is up to and who he works for. Lots of theories going on with that. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're all excited about that. So you can see we're very much invested. Here's this. Somebody's asking a question. So Candace wants to know, on When Calls the Heart, do you have the ability to add dialogue when filming or to ad-lib? I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
It's a great question. It's so well written that there's not always the need or opportunity to try to shift things. But I will say that the entire team's open to suggestions and interpretations. And, if you feel, or, for example, for myself, because they've got Wyman speaking in such a clearly unique way to him, if something surfaced in my mind, I had no hesitation to ask whoever was directing that episode, hey, what do you think about this? And they would check with the writers. So it's very collaborative that way. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's another, this is a good question too. What happened? Show it. Here we go. On When Calls the Heart. Oh, I already said that one. Here it is. Sorry. What character do you find more challenging to play? And I guess that, Christina, if I'm wrong, I think you mean between Mandrake and Wyman. Is there one that's more challenging than the other?
I find them both uniquely challenging. With Wyman, in my preparation, because, initially with the breakdown, there weren't lots of characteristics they were looking for in it. So it was open to your interpretation. And I found him, when the well-dressed, well-groomed, on the exterior, the aesthetic is this guy's got money. Yes. I felt that physically he carries his self in a certain way. I often refer to it as piano back, but it's a little, rigid in the spine and put together, and make sure he says the right things when he needs to with a smile. So I find, keeping that in your mind when you're in the scenes is always a challenge. And then with Mandrake, again, as you and I talked about with Mandrake, I put together a backstory where potentially he came from some sort of military training, government training. So again, that would bring also a sense of rigidness. But underneath all of that is what's nice about Mandrake, in the contrast to Wyman, is I've got deep affection and a family love for Evan and taking care of him. So both of them are uniquely challenging, but it's such fun to play. It's such fun to play.
I love that too, because you don't get bored.
No way. No way.
So I'm going to show another question. This one's from Janine Marie, but I was thinking of something so often when I hear interviews or the actors talk, or even a director that may have been on, or whoever was guesting on When Calls. They always say that even though they're like new, you feel the love. Even though you're new, new kid in school, you and Spurlock are the new kids in school. I remember when Kevin McGarry and Chris were like, we're the new kids in school, but they felt the love. Is that true? Did you feel very much accepted?
Yeah. It had been a show. It's been in Vancouver for a long time, and I had auditioned probably 4 times in total. And a couple seasons back, I had been shortlisted for a part that Peter had been directing, and ultimately went in a different direction. So it was on my radar, and I had conversations with my agent about wanting to be on the show, and working with a bunch of actors, as I said, doing some coaching stuff. I had worked with a lot of actors that had been on the show, and it was always like great stories. So when I walked in, my first day was a bit hair raising, because it was with essentially the entire cast in the bar, and everybody was there. That was I was like, I didn't have time to even say hi to everybody, but I knew a bunch of the actors. But very quickly, as season 8 went on I believe it was episode 10, 11, and 12. Everybody was amazing. Every single person on the show, from the number 1, Aaron, all the way down. Get out of here! It was just such a joy going to work. There was never that moment of, oh man, what's today going to pull through? It was it was just awesome. They're fantastic people. There's a reason why the show is still running. It comes from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top. They're wonderful people in the show, and they care about it, and they care about their fans.
You can tell. I mean, I think that's why we're all so invested, and that's a good thing. Good. I hope it keeps on going. Brian Bird, I talked to him I don't know, it was about maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was asking him a question, and he said to me, it's not going to last forever, but we have many stories to tell. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that, Brian. I'll take that.
Yeah, there's just so much. But to answer that question, everybody is lovely. There wasn't not that I'd turn around and say, well, so-and-so was a goof face. Yeah, but literally, every day in between sets, sitting with, the actors that you're working with, it was just a joy. You feel part of the team, definitely, which was great. Thing.
Which is nice, and it carries over, and we can feel that. We like that ourselves. Janine?
Well, not always the case too, Roxanne, and I can tell you that makes for an uncomfortable time on set, right?
Oh, I know that, but we can feel. That's what I mean. We can feel it with this. This is why I think everybody likes to be there, so they bring it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what makes it so successful, as you were saying. So Janine said, as a supporting actor, about how many hours do you spend on a set in a given day and week? It's very detailed, like Janine Marie is.
Yeah, Janine, great question. Normally depending on the size of role, how many days. So when you book a gig, it's in your contract how many days you're going to be on set. Oh. Right. Now, a reoccurring character like mine's a little different because it changes from episode to episode. But say you book a gig and you're going to be on set for 4 days. You go into each day on set expecting potentially to be there from 12 to 14 hours, but you can be out of there in 3 hours, depending on how much you're in the episode, and in much, what scenes they're shooting of yours on that given day. Okay. There's been days on set where you get in and, the show might say, oh, you know what? We need Wes to be driving in the background. And I don't have any dialogue. I'm just an image in the background, and you drop in, you do that for an hour and you're gone. Or it's days that are just like a full day of your character, and you're there for a while.
And handling all those weather changes that you have. I mean, it was like melting. You were melting when they first started filming. And then it was like the Arctic tundra. People had on like blustery winds and coats and parkas. I was like, what? That's crazy weather to me.
It's been, from Chesapeake shores, if you'll remember the scene that I was talking to you about, Treat Williams, when he comes and sees the plane after the crash, that was the start of our heat wave. We had about 6 days where it was over 100 degrees. And you guys can't see, but each of us is soaking wet in that. Sure. And then flip to, When Calls the Heart, starting late August and going through November. You've seen the news. It's been tragic here with flooding and all different weather. So once sort of early October ended, it just boom, and it's just been nuts.
That is crazy weather. Now here is my last question that I'm going to pop up, and then I'm going to ask you one thing, and then we'll close. It says, sure. I wonder, do the actors watch themselves when it's on, live, when they're the season has begun? Do you ever watch or no?
Yeah, I don't like to watch myself on camera ever. Okay. But with When Calls the Heart, I wanted to see how it translated. So watching season 8, I watched the season leading up to it. And then when I came in, I just wanted to see how you're always interested, do they cut things out? Does it make the final cut? And lucky for me, all the Wyman scenes were in, and I was really happy with them. I watched Chesapeake because that was a new show for me, and to see the character go from no dialogue and sort of standing beside the car with Robert Buckley to becoming part of the show and the cast. Yes. And my daughter loves watching the show, so it became a Sunday night thing, which was cool, and she's 4.5. So yeah, we watch it, but to be honest with you, quite often I don't watch a lot of my footage. I take a look to see if there's something I can use for my demo reel that my agent can use to help me get future parts. Okay. But yeah, it's never fun watching yourself on screen.
No, I agree, because as teaching, we get recorded all the time, and I do not want to see myself.
Yeah. You're the first podcast I've done that I've said yes to for this stuff, because your energy was so authentic and real, and I love the passion in your voice. But yeah, would I watch this back? Probably not. So hi for now, everyone.
Now, before we go and we say goodnight to everyone, and thank you for tuning in, tell us a little bit, because I told them, I teased it a little bit. Tell us about the Mamas for Mamas. I love that name. And I put a link, and I will add the link in the description to this. And then I will also add it when I post it in all the fan pages and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Mamas for Mamas was created, and their philosophy or their tagline is "No woman or child is left behind."
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I need to say about this organization. Yeah, it's
right.
literally an organization that started in the interior of British Columbia, and then moved its way down into Vancouver and has different fragments throughout the province. But they're taking care of families in need. And they did a wonderful thing. So when these floods hit, for those that don't know about the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest, we got hit by an atmospheric river that essentially shut our province down. We don't have access out of British Columbia to the rest of Canada at the moment. So that was goods and services. We're on gas shortages right now. The emergency act's in. We're only allowed to fill up to about $30 per tank when you do it. So this organization is also contributing to the flood victims, because where in Vancouver in the Lower Mainland, it was pretty good. There was lots of flooding, but we're talking about highways being washed out and people shut down. So they're doing a lot of work to help assist those families in need there, but no woman or child left behind. I mean, my wife put them on the radar for me, and it just makes sense. It just makes sense as a father and as a compassionate human being. Mamas for Mamas, and just the name alone is awesome. So check out their website. They're great. And Roxanne asked me about that, and they're helping the people in need.
I will make sure I add the links. We have, like I was saying, the viewers, they have like a servant's heart, and they're wonderful at like participating. We did a Christmas card campaign, and Joe was on, and it was her good friend who was like leading it, and we had a really good time. We had someone show how to make a card. It was a fun card. Okay. Well, I had people send me packages of cards, and then I had to resend them over. My students must have made like 150 themselves. So they're just so into like doing like wonderful things for everyone, which is nice. And I knew that they would love to hear about Mamas for Mamas. I found it really interesting. Actually, when I started to read about it, kind of made me a little choked up.
100%. It does. It's just looking at their mission statement, their history, and where they came. And again, Roxanne, thank you for asking about that, because it's this. We're in a time right now in the world where we need to help one another and to join together, and I do firmly believe that. So you doing that work with your podcast and finding these groups and charities in different areas around the world that are offering these kind of supports to people that need it is just amazing. It's amazing.
So before we go, I wanted to just say this. I know I keep saying this. I always take 900 times to say goodbye.
No, you're good.
That's the Italian in me. We always kiss and we say goodbye, and then we kiss and we say goodbye again. But this is really nice. This is from Margie, and Margie said, "Thank you, Roxanne and Wesley. This is one of my favorite interviews yet. Wesley, you are great."
Aw, Margie, thank you. I really appreciate that. And Roxanne is amazing leading the ship and guiding the direction. And for all of you out there, I can see the comments here, and I see and feel the comments on social media. And like I said, ultimately, we do this for you, and you do it for us. With your support, we're able to do this. So it's, I don't know, it's just a two-way street, and it's a lot of fun. So seeing people like yourself, Roxanne, that create these platforms where people can see behind the curtain a little bit, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
All right. So don't you leave. Give me a minute. You can stay in the studio. But everyone, thank you and have a good night. And tomorrow, if you have time, make sure you tune in, because Jax and her sister, Cassie Collier, they're going to be on at 2, which is an odd time for me. And they're going to talk about, they came up with this really cool idea to make personalized board games for your family. Like you give pictures and questions and whatnot. It's so cute. And if you remember, Jax is part of a podcast that was Bubbly Sesh. So she's also going to be hosting family game night or fun night for the Christmas con. And then in the evening, I have the best honor to interview Joni Kane. She is the author and the screenwriter for the movie The Christmas Card. Oh my goodness, which is my favorite Christmas movie with Ed Asner. She's going to be in. So it's going to be exciting tomorrow. So I'm going to end and say thank you. And Wes, you stay in. You can wave with your
Thanks, Hearties. Thanks, Chessies. Thanks, Hallmarkies.